The table is turning, and Africa is watching. For centuries, Africa and black people across the world have endured slavery, colonialism, racism, exploitation, and systematic exclusion. From the transatlantic slave trade to colonial occupation, from segregation to modern discrimination, the black experience has often been shaped by struggle against systems of domination. Even today, many black communities continue to face racism and unequal treatment across parts of the Western world. Cases such as the killing of George Floyd became global symbols of systemic injustice and exposed deep racial tensions beneath the surface of modern democracies. Now, another case has sparked outrage and painful comparisons. In May 2026, Yves Sakila, a Congolese-born man living in Ireland, died after being restrained by multiple security guards outside a department store in Dublin, following an alleged shoplifting incident. Video footage circulated widely online showing Sakila pinned to the ground while in visible distress, with one individual appearing to kneel on his head or neck. The incident triggered protests, vigils, and demands for justice across Ireland, with many activists comparing the images to the death of George Floyd. Irish authorities and political leaders called for a full investigation into the circumstances surrounding his death. For many Africans and black communities worldwide, the death of Yves Sakila was not viewed as an isolated incident alone. It became part of a broader feeling that black lives are still too often treated with suspicion, excessive force, or unequal humanity in parts of the West. At the same time, the world itself is changing. The global order that once placed Western powers firmly at the center of political, economic, and cultural dominance is slowly shifting. Africa is becoming increasingly important geopolitically because of its strategic minerals, growing population, youthful workforce, energy resources, and emerging markets. Meanwhile, Pan-African consciousness is rising across Africa and the diaspora. More Africans and black people worldwide are questioning long-standing systems of dependency, exploitation, and unequal global relationships. The table is turning, but what does that really mean? It does not necessarily mean revenge, domination, or racial supremacy in reverse. Historically, major Pan-African thinkers such as Kwame Nkrumah, W.E.B. Du Bois, and Thomas Sankara did not primarily advocate for black domination over others. Their vision centered on dignity, sovereignty, equality, self-determination, and justice. What many Africans and black communities increasingly demand is not superiority, but respect. The Western world must understand that the age of unquestioned dominance is being challenged. Many people across Africa and the global South no longer automatically accept political interference, exploitative trade systems, paternalistic attitudes, economic dependency, and racial double standards. The younger generation is more globally aware, historically conscious, and politically vocal than ever before. Africa is watching how black people are treated in Western societies, watching how African migrants are spoken about, watching how African resources continue to fuel global industries while many Africans remain poor, watching how democracy and human rights are sometimes applied selectively in international politics. This growing awareness is changing the psychology of global relations. At the same time, Western societies face a major decision. If they truly want stable and healthy future relations with black communities and Africa, symbolic gestures alone will not be enough. Real progress requires honest confrontation with history, meaningful institutional reform, fairer economic relationships, equal treatment under the law, and genuine respect for African sovereignty. Because racism is not only about hateful individuals. Many criticisms focus on deeper structural issues involving policing, economic inequality, representation, media narratives, and access to opportunity. The challenge now is whether Western nations can adapt to a world where influence must increasingly be earned rather than assumed. But Africa must also learn important lessons. The continent cannot rely solely on blaming outsiders, while ignoring internal problems such as corruption, weak governance, division, poor leadership, and economic dependency. True liberation requires responsibility as well as resistance. Pan-Africanism is returning not merely as emotion, but as strategic necessity. African nations acting alone often remain vulnerable. But economically and politically coordinated, African states could become one of the most powerful forces of the 21st century. The real global shift is not simply black versus white or Africa versus the West. It is the emergence of a more multipolar world where Africa gains greater leverage. The global South gains stronger influence. Old power structures are increasingly questioned. The table is turning because the world itself is changing. And perhaps the greatest warning and opportunity for the Western world is this: a future built on domination will continue producing resentment and instability. But a future built on mutual dignity, fairness, and respect could create a new kind of global relationship. Africa is not merely waiting anymore. Africa is watching. Africa is learning. Africa is awakening, and the world can feel it. If this message spoke to you, if you believe Africa's future matters, if you believe dignity, justice, and truth must prevail, then this conversation cannot end here. Comment below, what role should Africa and the diaspora play in shaping the New World Order? Like this video to support more Pan-African content. Share this video with others so the conversation continues across the world. Subscribe to the channel for more powerful discussions on Pan-Africanism, African geopolitics, Black identity, global power shifts, and the future of Africa. Because the table is turning and Africa is watching.